Hi guys, it's Dannii from the ScrapFx design team for September 2021. Today I've got an art journal page in my mixed media junk journal, and it's just a very basic little page but nice and quick and easy. So I've selected some paints and I'm just splashing down a few patches of colour. This is sort of a peachy keen sort of colour, and then the bubblegum pink, and I'm just sort of splotching it about, trying to have little organic shapes and get a nice little coverage on my background. So just going in now with a bit of white, and I'm really looking for a pastel tone sort of background, something very girly to go with the rice papers that I've selected. And now I'm just making a little bit of mark making with my brush, and just going back in with some of that peachy tone again, and just sort of blending it in a little bit softer, trying to get rid of all the harsh square lines. So I'm just sort of going back and forth with these colours, the peach, the bubblegum pink, the white, and that sort of ivory, I think it's called vintage lace. Drying that off now. Now I'm adding a little bit of black, and it's quite stark, so I've added a bit more white and sort of mixing it as a palette onto the page, trying to get more of a grey tone so it's not so stark. Again, a bit more mark making, just to incorporate it so it doesn't look like a big old splosh in the middle of the page. And then I go back in with a bit of white just to try and soften it a bit more. I don't want to lose that sort of pastel-y tones that I have in the background, so I want that sort of page to be nice and soft. Now I'm going back in with my Posca pen, just doing some little rainbow humps here, or scales, just drawing them in and doing a bit of mark making over that black, which is going to tone it down a little bit more as well, and try and incorporate it into the page. Bit of doodling around the brush strokes, and I really liked the way that was looking. This is a bit of a fluoro red. It's more of a pinky red, but it's supposed to be fluoro red. And again, just keeping up with that sort of mark making, that continuously just sort of making little marks across the page. This is a ScrapFx stencil, it's called Hearty stencil, and again I'm just incorporating some more hearts on the page. So just lightly stenciling certain little areas. I'm using the peachy tone again. Again, just drying that off. Now these are Stabilo oil pencils. They're in the colours, so they're water soluble, so I'm just sort of going in, and they're kind of very waxy pastel-y typed pencils. So I'm just making a few rainbows. Sort of goes with the page, as I'm using Claire's rice papers, and she loves a rainbow, so I thought I'd incorporate that in my page. And just a bit more mark making with those Stabilo oils. Now I'm just tracing over the stenciled hearts with my white Posca pen, so just sort of doodling and making an outline around those pencil marks. And this is Claire's new rice paper. It's called Heart Girl, of course. So I've fussy cut that out, not too closely. I've got a little bit of a white border there. I haven't been too fussed, and I'm just cutting out the little elements of hearts and things that are also incorporated on that rice paper page. And I'm just using matte medium here to glue the rice papers down. They are translucent, so they will take on a little bit of the background, which I kind of like, as this page is quite soft. Just taking a little bit more excess of that girl and gluing her down into place as well. So you can see how translucent those rice papers are. Now here I realised that it was probably a mistake to use a Stabilo, so I'm just sealing them with my matte medium. So I'm just going over those areas, and they are moving slightly but not too badly. And the matte medium will seal them in place so they won't move again when I hit them with some more paint. Just making sure the page is nice and dry. And I'm going to grab the quotes from the rice paper and stick that down on a bit of cardstock so that I can cut that up and use it as my little title on the page. So I'm using a little bit of this vintage lace, the ivory sort of tones, and I'm just blocking out a little bit of that marks that are coming through on the rice paper on the face. So just giving her a little bit of a skin tone. So just sort of blocking out all those peachy blotches that were coming through and the yellow. Now I'm just using some Prisma pencils here. I'm just colouring some sections, the hearts, the lips, and I'll go back through and put shadows to the face and just finer details. My rainbows are looking a little bit muddy, so I'm going to have to work on those as well. So I'm just using sort of a reds and pink tones in the hearts here, just going back and forth with the colours. I thought that lipstick was a little bit dark, so I've just gone back in with the ivory colour and painted back over. And now I'm using my fluoro pencils. These are Caran d'Ache pencils, and I'm just brightening those rainbows because they do look a little bit muddy at the moment. So Claire has put sort of a grey scale tone in for the shadows, and so I'm just basically colouring over those areas with that light violet. And now with a little bit of the blushy pink. So I just sort of work back and forth with the light colours over her skin, just creating a bit of shadow and a little bit more depth to her face. And here I'm using the white Posca pen to fill out her eyes and some highlights on her face. And now I've decided to go with that sort of plummy pink tones in her hair, which will sort of match with the backgrounds. And I'm using the Stabilo here as well, just so that I can water activate that and get a nice pinky blush tone right throughout her hair. Decided to put some irises in, so I'm just sort of sketching out the iris in her eyes. Just colouring those in. The rice paper was still a little bit damp here, so I've just gone back over with my heat gun. And then just back and forth with a few little colours there, just to put the colour into her iris. And now strands throughout her hair. And again, just following the shadowed areas there with the darker purples. Now this is the black pencil here, and I'm just putting the fine lines in the eyes and tracing over the darker border lines or the outlines, just to give her hair a little bit more contrast. And then here I'm using the fine line pen to finalize those eyes and really give her a top and bottom lid. Just going over with my white Posca pen over those rainbows and sort of defining the colour in the rainbows, and now doodling around all the little hearts and the mark making highlights in her eyes and in her hair. Back to the quote, and I'm just going to cut out the first quote there. And just audition it on the page, work out where I want to pop the quote on the page. Pretty happy with that. So now I'm just going to use a little bit of bubblegum pink to edge around the cardstock so it incorporates into the page. And they don't look like stark white strips on the page, and I'm gluing those down just with a glue stick. A little bit of black paint around the edges. I'm just using a makeup wedge here just to lightly mark the edges of the page, and it gives it a little bit of a frame around the outside pages, and a bit of scratchy lines around the quotes. And that's basically it. So I hope you found some inspiration in this. Claire's little hearty girl is quite a cute little rice paper to use, and a really easy project. You don't need a great deal of stock or a great deal of materials to have a lovely little art journal page finished. I hope you enjoyed the page. Please subscribe and leave a comment. I love to read your comments. And once again, thanks for coming and watching. See you next time.